Before my husband left for the war, he gave me a divorce letter. This journey is perilous, and I may not return. Do not waste your life waiting for me. In my past life, I thought it was because he loved me deeply, after all. He once said there's a kind of love called letting go. I never received news of his death, so I waited for him my entire life. Before dying alone from illness, I heard he had long since raised a family with children at the border. My foolish devotion was nothing but a joke. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Given another chance in this life, Lu Xing, just as in the previous life, handed me the divorce papers 3 days before his departure for battle. This journey is fraught with peril, and I don't want to condemn you to a lifetime of loneliness. He gazed at me with deep affection, his eyes filled with sorrow. Because I love you. I'm letting you go. You deserve someone better. I gazed into his affectionate eyes, unable to discern whether his feelings were genuine or feigned at this moment. He was born with naturally charming eyes that could make even a dog feel adored. His words were always as sweet as honey, had it not been so. How could I, a young girl full of romantic dreams, have fallen for him at first sight back then? Thinking of his past life, he never returned in that lifetime. Thinking of myself, I waited for him foolishly my entire life. Husband. I gazed at him foolishly. For me at this moment, it had been a full 20 years since I last saw him. I waited from the age of 20 until 40, pining away. I died of sorrow. Now, seeing him again, gazing at his handsome face and gentle eyes, in the end, I couldn't help but feel resentful. Her hands trembled as she clutched the divorce letter. Husband, I can accompany you to the border town. I'm not afraid of hardship. In her past life, he had said she was too much of a pampered young lady, and going with him would only bring her unnecessary suffering. I won't hold you back, husband. Lu Xing gave a bitter smile, reaching out to ruffle my hair. But your husband would be distracted. But, no buts. My ache should stay happily in the comfort of the capital. I couldn't detect a trace of insincerity on his face. It seems, just as he said, because he loves me, he chooses to let go. At this moment, I really want to know. The woman who spent her life with him in the border town in a past life, did they have a history together? Or did they come to know and love each other only after parting with me? Either way, it only proves that I am a joke. With this thought, I no longer felt the heart-wrenching sorrow of separation that I had when sending him off to war in my past life. Only the aura of resentment around me almost solidified into a tangible form. Alas, he held me tightly in his arms, his heart aching. Burying his head beside my ear, he let out a soft sigh. This afternoon your husband has arranged to drink farewell wine with colleagues. You go to sleep first tonight, and I promise to return as soon as possible. Then he kissed my forehead. Under my resentful gaze, he pushed me away and hurried off into the sunset. Watching his graceful figure disappear into the distance, my heart was unusually calm. Unlike the previous life, she didn't cry her heart out from the pain of separation, nearly fainting from grief. Instead, she took advantage of the early hour and hurried out the door, carrying the divorce papers. She rushed to the government office before it closed to register the divorce. By midnight, when the sky was filled with stars, Lu Xing returned home drunk. I have left the mansion with my dowry for quite some time now. He stared blankly at the empty bedroom, rubbing his throbbing temples. Grabbing a stewardess, he asked, "Where is my wife?" The stewardess looked bewildered. "You and the lady have divorced. She left with her dowry this afternoon." "What? With her dowry? I am the daughter of the wealthiest man in Jiangnan. My dowry would be considered an immense fortune even by ordinary officials in the capital. In my past life, I deeply loved Lu Xing. Before each military campaign, he would always complain to me about insufficient military funds. So I sold my dowry to fill his purse, hoping only for his swift and victorious return. Later, he did indeed triumph, but he claimed foreign tribes beyond the border were stirring, and volunteered to garrison the frontier town. I tried to go to the border town to find him, but was stopped by his clansmen. A delicate woman like you going to a place like the border town would only be a burden. You should be more sensible. My longing turned into illness. and I coughed up blood every day, but when the illness became terminal, my elder brother from faraway Yuhang rushed to see me. The family physician he brought took my pulse and shook his head in anger. This is utterly outrageous, utterly outrageous. They've been making the young lady take an allergenic decoction for 20 years, killing her without a trace, and she's only 40. Upon hearing this, I was so enraged that my heart failed, and I passed away. In my previous life, the year Lu Xing first went off to war, he often wrote me letters, promises like unless the mountains crumble and heaven and earth merge, I shall never part from you, or verses such as searching for him in the crowd 1,000 times, yet suddenly turning back, there he stands in the dimming light of lanterns. Occasionally, he would sigh about the hardships of the northern deserts, where the wind and sand choked the breath. I heartbrokenly distributed all the silver my brother had sent as dividends and sent it all to the northern deserts, while I lived on simple meals, tsk. Lu Xing used my dowry to build a prosperous family and became the revered god of war that everyone admired, yet when I died of illness at 40, the world only remembered me as a lovesick and noble soul. In front of the Lu family ancestral home, a tall memorial archway was erected. She even told her brother, who was so angry he could spit blood, that having a sister like her was his honor. No, back then, I ignored my brother's dissuasion, my mind muddled as if smeared with lard. Insisting on marrying no one but Lu Xing. Oh, me, I am my brother's karmic debt. Clearly, my brother was the husband father had chosen for me. I was so determined to marry Lu Xing that my father, in a fit of anger, adopted my brother as his foster son. I waited for Lu Xing my entire life, and my brother waited for me his entire life. In my past life, after he learned that Lu Xing and I had divorced, he cautiously wrote to ask me, Kiki, the spring scenery in Jiangnan is at its finest. I've had a silver and crystal peony couch carved and placed in the courtyard for flower viewing and fish feeding, creating a unique charm. If you return, I vow to protect you for a lifetime. How did I reply to him? I wrote back, brother, in life I am Lu Xing's person. In death I am Lu Xing's ghost. Brother, you should quickly find a wife, and, to avoid suspicion, please don't come to the capital to look for me, lest it give people cause for gossip. After that, my brother never wrote to me again, nor did he ever come to the capital. It wasn't until later, when he heard I was dying, that he couldn't hold back anymore. Leaving the past behind, I took my dowry and left the Left General's residence. But I didn't return to Jiangnan to find my brother. How could I ever be worthy of someone as good as him? Besides, I truly respect him as an elder brother. If I were to go back to him just because I've suffered hardships elsewhere, that would be an insult to him. As for Lu Xing, I used my dowry to buy all the courtyards in an alley next to Suzaku Avenue. The next day, when Lu Xing found me, I had already spent most of my dowry and was sitting on a swing in the best decorated courtyard. In this life, I won't give him a single penny more of my silver. And the debts from my past life, I will also demand repayment. It's just that I'm not particularly clever, and the only idea I can think of for now is to spend the silver first. Aku, your husband has been searching for you all night. Lu Xing stood beneath the hanging flower gate, gazing at me with a profound look in his eyes. How could you leave without saying a word? I sat on the swing, rocking leisurely, not even glancing at him, and only instructed Nanny Lu beside me. How could an outsider be allowed into the backyard? What about my reputation? Nanny Lu was momentarily stunned, but that was the former son-in-law. I said calmly, you said it yourself, former son-in-law, which makes him an outsider now. Lu Xing's expression changed. You are angry. He hurriedly walked towards me. I quickly jumped off the swing. After avoiding him, I took several steps back, watching him coldly. You said I deserve someone better, didn't you? Then it's best we don't see each other anymore, lest I miss out on my true match. Lu Xing froze, his face a picture of bewilderment. Aku, you know full well that your husband had no choice. He reached out to touch my face, but when I avoided his hand, his expression instantly fell to the depths of despair. His gaze was filled with sorrow. It was as if I had abandoned him, yet in both lifetimes, it was he who left me first. I glanced at him indifferently. Stop calling yourself your husband at every turn. We're already divorced. We have no relationship left." He gave a bitter smile. "But though I gave you the divorce papers, I never asked you to leave the residence. In 2 days, I'll be leaving the capital for war. These last 2 days, I had hoped to take you through every corner of the city we once walked together, to relive all the beautiful memories we shared, but I have no desire to reminisce at all, in my previous life, before parting." He indeed held my hand and walked through all the streets and alleys we had once traversed together. At every place, we indulged in reminiscing to our heart's content, which only made me grow increasingly sorrowful. Yet he stubbornly refused to let me accompany him on the military campaign north. Later, as I stood on the city tower watching him leave, I nearly cried my heart out. Afterwards, I missed him so terribly, holding the jade bracelet he gave me before leaving. I walked alone through the streets we once strolled together, carrying endless longing. Over and over, I tormented myself with fading memories, until the end, longing turned into illness. But every time I decided to go find him, I would inexplicably fall ill. I watched his suffering with cold eyes and said indifferently, "Now, I only wish for a clean break, so please leave my courtyard immediately. You are not welcome here." Aku. His eyes were filled with sorrow, and the resentment around him was even heavier than mine. "Aku, do you regret it? Do you regret choosing me back then, not choosing your dear brother, remembering the lonely life of my past?" I nodded. "I truly regret it, but it has nothing to do with my brother. In my past life, the moment I learned he had a house full of children in the border town, regret and bitterness overwhelmed me fiercely. A suffocating weight pressed against my chest. Then, I spat out a mouthful of blood." He started vomiting. Immersive translate. As expected, he looked at me with a ghastly expression, his entire body swaying unsteadily, the pain and brokenness in his eyes unmistakably genuine. Then, he sneered at me. "You've always had him in your heart, haven't you? Otherwise, why would you go out of your way to exclude him and protect him at this moment? Indeed, what you can't have is always the best." The mockery in his eyes was so piercing, it made me sick to my stomach. I pointed at the courtyard gate, glaring at him coldly. "You don't have to judge others by yourself. Just leave. You're not welcome here." He froze, as if unable to comprehend how I, who had just yesterday vowed to go with him to the border, could suddenly have such a drastic change in attitude. But in the end, his pride prevailed. In the end, with reddened eyes and a face full of sorrow, he walked toward the courtyard gate. But just as he reached the gate, he suddenly stopped, gathered all his defeated emotions, and turned back to look at me with utmost calmness. "Ake, if you change your mind, you may return to the Liu residence any time before tonight, but after that, the offer expires. This is the last chance I'm giving you, my wife. I hope you cherish it." With those words, he resolutely turned and left. Granny Liu looked utterly bewildered. "Miss, what does former son-in-law mean?" I shook my head, watching his retreating figure, my chest tight with suffocating pain. "Of course I regretted it. I regret marrying Liu Xing, which angered my father so much he nearly severed ties with me. I regret leaving my hometown in Jiangnan to marry into the capital, far from home. The journey was long, and the carriage too slow. By the time I rushed back upon hearing of my father's critical illness, he had already been laid to rest. I am utterly unfilial. Sadly, what have I gained for being so devoted to him? He keeps saying he loves me. But if he truly loves me, why did he leave me in the capital to marry someone else? If you don't love me, why do you take money from me as if it's your right? I can't help but suspect that after the separation, he allowed me to stay in the general's mansion just to control me. After all, controlling me means controlling my brother, which means controlling most of the wealth in the southern regions. If that's the purpose, why give me the divorce letter? Is it because that woman refuses to be a concubine? You keep saying you're letting me go, yet you've set up an inescapable trap to confine me. At that moment, I truly found him utterly repulsive. This is precisely why, in this life, I seized the moment when he left the mansion to drink and hastily moved out of the general's residence. I feared that if I delayed even a step, I would fall back into the predicament of my past life. because, in my past life, I was trapped by love. Although I had the divorce papers he gave me, I never truly registered them at the government office. Nominally, she was still his wife. His divorce letter merely served to perfect his reputation. I thought I had decisively severed ties with Lu Xing in this lifetime. By not giving him a single penny, there would be no future entanglements, but in the end, it was naive. Less than half a day after Lu Xing left me, all sorts of rumors began to spread on the streets. Have you heard? Knowing that General Lu's chances of survival in this expedition were slim. His wife actually took the initiative to divorce him and fled with her dowry. How heartless, but it's understandable. After all, when disaster strikes, even the closest couples must part ways. Tisk, if you ask me. A noble lady would never stoop to such behavior. Only these merchant-class women could be so shameless. Truly, the merchant's daughter knows not the grief of a lost nation, still singing backyard flowers across the river. Our General Lu is too pitiable. Immersive translate. When Granny Lu returned from buying groceries and saw a pile of stinking chamber pots left at the courtyard gate, her face darkened with rage. Miss, the rumors outside are running wild. Some even claim you've been secretly carrying on with someone and say you should be drowned in a pig cage. Miss, what are we to do? Seeing me standing silently by the window, Granny Lu grew even more restless. Miss, should we go and clarify things with the former son-in-law? No, why not? If this continues, Nanny Lu had seen decent young ladies from good families being driven to their deaths by relentless accusations of moral corruption. The world is already unfair to ordinary women, let alone a divorced woman, especially a wealthy divorced one. It will only be more unjust. I turned and looked at her quietly. Because these rumors originally came from the Lu residence, Nanny Lu broke out in a cold sweat instantly. Why? The former young master clearly held you in such high regard. These words must have come from those foul-mouthed servants. If we just talk properly with the former young master, he will surely clear your name. Madam, I sighed, mourning for my past self. No wonder I was manipulated my entire life in my previous existence. Even my closest confidant, Nanny Lu, was a fool. As the master, how good can I possibly be? If he truly valued me, I wouldn't need to beg him. He would clarify things himself, but if he did it intentionally, then his goal was precisely to wait for me to plead with him. Why? Nanny Lu looked utterly bewildered. Looking at her, I seemed to see my own foolishly naive past self. A wave of sorrow welled up inside. He let out a light sigh. Just wait a day and see if he comes out to clarify. Nanny Lu nodded, seeming to understand but not quite. Oh yes, the former son-in-law cherished our young lady so dearly, he's bound to come forward and clear things up. Ah, this old servant is just being needlessly worried. Enough of that. Enough. I'll go have someone prepare bird's nest soup for the young lady first. Yet as I watched her retreating figure, I couldn't help but frown. She wasn't wrong. This situation couldn't continue like this. Gossip and slander truly have the power to destroy lives. Today is the commode. What about tomorrow? Lu Xing is a military prodigy of great yen, as long as he can happily go to the battlefield. What does sacrificing one of me matter? Lu Xing is forcing me in this way, forcing me to return to the Lu mansion on my own, only to end up being devoured completely, just like in my past life, but after nightfall. I still didn't return to the Lu mansion. Instead, I sat alone by the window until dawn. However, the next morning, news soon spread that Lu Xing, overwhelmed with grief, was drowning his sorrows in a tavern. At the same time, rumors of my secret meetings with another man spread like wildfire overnight. The war in the northern deserts was intensifying. At this critical moment, the commander-in-chief, heartbroken and abandoned by his wife, was seen drinking in public, his spirit utterly crushed. What kind of broken basket is this? Who among the common folk wouldn't be enraged upon hearing this? Thus, as soon as the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon, a foul-smelling pig cage was carried to the gate of my courtyard. Pig cage drowning. Pig cage drowning. The enraged people frantically rammed the door, terrifying the matrons and servants so much that their souls seemed to flee their bodies, leaving them trembling like sieves, especially Matron Lu. whose face turned so pale she didn't even need to powder it. My heart turned ice cold. Truly worthy of being the war god of his past life, he seemed to do nothing, yet he could easily take my life. So, this was the meaning behind his words yesterday. I tried to calm my turbulent emotions and asked Granny Lou calmly, "Did you handle the task I assigned you last night?" Nanny Lou nodded hurriedly. "It's done. I've already sent word to my son who works in the palace. But, miss, will this really work? Won't His Majesty have your head for this?" I smiled bitterly. "Desperate times call for desperate measures. Oh, and I've gathered all your deeds of sale and left them on the dressing table. Go distribute them to everyone and flee for your lives, miss." Nanny Lou looked at me, too heartbroken to speak. I was raised by her own hands. Though we were mistress and servant, our bond surpassed that of mother and daughter. How could she not feel heartache when things had come to this? "I won't leave." Boom! At that moment, the enraged crowd burst through the courtyard gate. "Hurry, seize her. A woman of such disgraceful conduct doesn't deserve to live in this world. Yes, duck her in the pig cage. Duck her in the pig cage." Immersive translate. I watched as those fierce-looking villagers charged towards us. Nanny Lou actually gritted her teeth and stood in front of me. "Our young lady has always been upright and honorable. Nothing like what you're saying. Have you no respect for the law? The law of the land, the punishment of drowning in a pig cage has always been the will of the people. What does it have to do with the law?" someone shouted. I turned to look at the person and saw a familiar face, an uncle from a branch of the Lou family. In my past life, every time I wanted to chase after him to the northern desert, it was he who stopped me, and the one responsible for buying medicine for me was also him. I lowered my eyes, my hands hidden in my sleeves clenching tightly into fists. My heart was filled with both hatred and frustration. Just as the furious crowd pulled Granny Lou aside and rushed to tear at my clothes, the most favored eunuch in the imperial court, Eunuch Lou, arrived belatedly with a group of fierce-looking imperial guards. "Miss Luo, His Majesty summons you to the palace for an audience." I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The person I've been waiting for has finally arrived. In the majestic Taiji Hall, I knelt calmly. Only when my legs had gone completely numb and stiff did the young emperor, who had been silently reviewing memorials from his high seat, finally raise his eyes to cast a cold glance at me. "Foolish woman Luo Ko, do you know why I have summoned you?" I humbly kowtowed. "Because the foolish woman is fickle and abandoned her husband Lu Xing. Yes, last night I asked Mother Lu to relay a message to her son, who serves in the Imperial Guard, instructing him to immediately inform His Majesty about Lu Xing drinking himself into a stupor because of me. Foolish woman, she deserves death." His Majesty was furious, glaring at me with cold, sharp eyes. Tens of thousands of people in the border city are currently living under the constant threat of the grassland people's slaughter. Lu Xing once single-handedly destroyed an entire city. He is a military genius without equal. Only he can resolve the current crisis. He set down the memorial and slowly walked over to me, looking down at me from his superior position. "You have disrupted the morale of the main army, a crime punishable by the extermination of 9 generations. I raised my eyes and calmly met the emperor's gaze, offering a bitter smile under his disdainful stare. "Your Majesty, if he were truly such a man, would he really be troubled by mere emotions?" Your Majesty was slightly taken aback, his gaze still icy. "What do you mean?" I lay prostrate on the ground. "Your Majesty, this foolish woman is the only daughter of Luo Yunma, the wealthiest merchant in Jiangnan. The annual profits are divided with 70% going to me. The remaining shares are 10% to my sworn brother and 20% to the rest of the clan. 10% amounts to 800,000 taels of silver per year. This foolish woman is willing to dedicate all of her share to the national treasury." Luo Yunma of Jiangnan. His Majesty was stunned. "Lu Xing clearly said you were just an ordinary merchant's daughter from Jiangnan." I nodded obediently. This foolish woman is indeed a merchant's daughter, far inferior in upbringing and family status to the noble ladies of the capital, which is why he rarely speaks of it to outsiders. The emperor sneered coldly. "What a rare thing to keep from outsiders." Do you know, my eyes are everywhere in this land, and I can trace every court official's lineage back 3 generations, yet Lu Xing managed to conceal it from me. This is truly intriguing. His Majesty looked down at me. The National Treasury's annual revenue is only 3 million taels of silver. Your Luo family is truly surprising. I remained silent. Business is in the blood of most people from Jiangnan. He stared at me for a while longer. With so much silver, are you really willing to part with it? I nodded without hesitation. Of course I'm willing. After all, my life is so valuable, especially my brother and clansmen. They're all excellent at making money. As long as your Majesty keeps them alive, they'll continue generating wealth for you. I just wanted to remind your Majesty not to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. Emph, the Emperor scoffed. My little schemes could never escape his sharp eyes. Your father might come back to life from sheer anger if he knew, though I don't understand why my father would be so angry he came back to life. But your Majesty's words are quite vicious. The Tai Chi Hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I secretly rubbed my sore calf, deeply sympathizing with the palace maids and eunuchs who serve His Majesty. Their knees and legs must be in terrible condition, just as I was wondering when His Majesty would allow me to stand up. Eunuch Lin suddenly entered to announce that General Lu Xing was requesting an audience. His Majesty raised an eyebrow and instructed Eunuch Lin to have Lu Xing wait outside the hall for the time being. Then, he crouched down in front of me. Meeting my gaze at eye level, in a voice only the two of us could hear, he asked, "State your request." I looked at His Majesty. He is handsome, young, and it is said that his harem currently has no concubines. I clicked my tongue in my heart. This foolish woman is dull-witted and struggles to protect herself. I beg your Majesty, for the sake of wealth, to take me into the palace and shelter me for life. The shops and courtyards in that alley on Vermilion Bird Street can serve as dowry, temporarily for the Ministry of Revenue to use. This foolish woman lacks the ability to be a motherly figure to the nation. Being a decorative imperial consort would suffice. His Majesty. I looked at His Majesty, whose face instantly stiffened and blinked. I was momentarily speechless at my own shamelessness. In truth, before seeing His Majesty's face, I had only thought of buying my life with money, but I hadn't intended to give that much. Seeing his handsome yet youthful face that concealed an air of dominance, suddenly, I remembered how in his past life he had constantly struggled with an empty treasury, yet refused to increase taxes. Who else would I spend my money on? If spending it on a ruler who loves his people can buy me a lifetime of peace and security, why not? Your Majesty must be encountering someone as shameless as me for the first time. Nothing but silence followed. Finally, he managed to utter a sentence. At present, I need Lu Xing to willingly fight for me. If he finds out I've seized his wife and cut off his livelihood, that is His Majesty's concern. Once His Majesty accepts that foolish woman's money, it should be His Majesty's problem to consider. I adjusted the crystal hairpin in my bun. That foolish woman is ignorant and shallow-minded, only capable of buying His Majesty's mind with money. His Majesty sneered. I truly don't know whether to call you foolish or brave. Fools have their own way of living. Turns out, having a thick skin really makes one invincible. Of course, I wasn't really captivated by His Majesty's breathtaking beauty, my inherent flaws. I should have corrected them in my past life. His Majesty rubbed his temples. In the end, he let me hide under the dragon throne, covering me with the hem of his robe before summoning Lu Xing to speak. At the same time, I also witnessed that His Majesty's face seemed thicker than mine. Moreover, he was even more adept at bluffing than Lu Xing. That's when I started to regret it. TSK, another pit of fire. When Lu Xing entered, he instinctively looked around. His Majesty cleared his throat lightly. Minister Lu, what are you searching for? Lu Xing immediately knelt down. Your Majesty, I heard you summoned my wife. His Majesty chuckled lightly. I heard that my great general has been infatuated with a woman to the point of losing himself. I wanted to see just what kind of extraordinary woman she is. Conveniently, I can keep her under watch to ensure she has no chance to interact with other men. His Majesty patted Lu Xing's shoulder lightly. once you return victorious, I'll return her to you." Lu Xing was taken aback, his eyes flickering slightly. "But your majesty, I cherish her deeply and wish to take her with me as we head north." The emperor's gaze darkened. "General Lu, you must carefully weigh the importance of national affairs against personal affections." Lu Xing was taken aback and, under the emperor's imposing authority, had no choice but to bow his head. "Your servant acknowledges his guilt." Afterward, Lu Xing left the palace with a dark expression, and I was once again dragged out from under the chair by His Majesty. Seeing my look of deep regret, he sneered, "Tsk, indeed. Fools have their own way of living." Me. On the day Lu Xing was about to depart, the emperor brought me to the city wall. When Lu Xing bid farewell to the emperor, he inevitably caught sight of me. After staring at me for a long time, he resolutely turned and left. After Lu Xing set off on the campaign, I have been living in the palace. The emperor publicly declared that I was imprisoned, yet within the palace, I reside in the Xiaoxiang Hall, a residence reserved only for the imperial noble consort. The palace maids all address me as noble consort. As for my former servants, they were all dismissed, including Nanny Lu, because His Majesty said, "With those servants of yours full of loopholes, who knows whose ears and eyes they are? I dare not bring them into the palace." I couldn't agree more, but His Majesty treated me with extreme indifference, never visiting my chambers. After all, ours was merely a cooperative relationship. However, what surprised me was that in this lifetime, my brother didn't send me that letter. I had thought it was because I entered the palace, and his letter couldn't reach me, but on the day the year-end dividends were delivered, the emperor brought the account book to me. When I opened and flipped through it, it felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over my head. Instantly, my entire body turned ice cold. The emperor looked at me and sneered. "Your sworn brother claimed that business was difficult this year, so he only managed to earn 1/10 of the usual profit, but according to what I know, he secretly sent several carts of silver to the border city in the northern desert." I clutched the account book tightly. The ledger showed only 400,000 taels of silver, yet in my past life, I distinctly remember receiving 4 million taels, all of which I sent to the northern frontier city. "Brother, one of the people I've respected most since childhood." I closed my eyes. My chest felt suffocated, wave after wave. After a long while, I finally regained my composure and looked at His Majesty, who wore an amused expression. "Your Majesty, a while ago, I asked you to keep an eye on the women who were close to Lu Xing in the border city. Have you found anything? At the time, when I made this request to Your Majesty, you even teased me, asking if I still had lingering feelings for Lu Xing. But now," his expression turned grave, "there is indeed a woman who has been disguising herself as a man in the army. She is both skilled in literature and martial arts, and has performed admirably in several small-scale battles, proving herself no less capable than any man. Even what?" I was quite curious. I really wanted to know what kind of woman could make Lu Xing abandon me and willingly stay in the border city of Maobei. Even her strategies surpassed Lu Xing's. When Lu Xing single-handedly conquered a city back then, she was actually inside the city. They worked together from within and without. Moreover, this woman speaks in an extremely peculiar manner, often using words that others can't understand. I was slightly taken aback. Actually, Lu Xing often says strange things, but I can always understand them. Like, "Do you have a map, because I keep getting lost in your eyes?" Or, "The fortune teller said I lack money in my 5 elements." Humph. I knew he was a fraud the moment I heard it. "I clearly only lack you. I don't have much appetite. I just want to flirt with you." Immersive translate. Every time he finishes speaking, I clearly feel he's being outrageously forward. Yet I can't help but blush with a racing heart, completely swayed by his emotions. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so charmed that I insisted on marrying no one but him. If that woman were even more eccentric than Lu Xing, I truly can't imagine. "Your Majesty, I wish to go to the northern deserts. I am deeply concerned about both that woman and the whereabouts of the dividends. I shall go with you." "Your Majesty, the country cannot be without its ruler for even a day," His Majesty sneered. "You dare to dictate to me? My heart skipped a beat as I obediently knelt. Your Majesty, forgive my offense. To avoid drawing attention, His Majesty and I disguised ourselves as a merchant couple. We addressed each other as husband and wife. Interestingly, the usually majestic emperor would always blush at the tips of his ears whenever he called me wife. When I called him husband, I felt somewhat guilty too. Fortunately, neither of us was particularly thin-skinned, so we gradually got used to it. A month later, we arrived at the border town. We had just found a restaurant to eat when we overheard the guests at the next table discussing a recent battle. It is said that General Liu has just won a battle. It is regrettable that a brave and capable deputy general went missing during the battle. Upon investigation ordered by His Majesty, it was discovered that the missing person was none other than that woman who rivaled men in valor. At the same time, the general's mansion gained a new lady of the house. She was said to be a merchant's daughter from Jiangnan, named Luo Qianxian. Hearing this name, I was suddenly stunned. The question that had been buried in my heart for so long finally had an answer. If it was her, then the reason why Lu Xing insisted on divorcing me and firmly refused to let me follow him to the northern desert became crystal clear. Seeing my grim expression, the emperor pinched my cheek. What, regretting it now? Feeling jealous, I pursed my lips and shook my head slightly. Husband, Luo Qianxian is the younger sister of my sworn brother Luo Shi. We grew up together. 3 years ago, she went missing by the Qinhuai River. The day she disappeared was precisely when Lu Xing was fighting in Nanyue, single-handedly conquering a city. Luo Qianxian indeed often says shocking things. The one I remember most vividly is, I, Luo Qianxian, will never be a concubine, nor will I ever share a husband with another. At the time, I laughed at her naivety, but now I only find myself laughable, because at that time, neither Lu Xing nor her sworn brother Luo Shi had ever laughed at her. So, the ones my sworn brother and Lu Xing truly loved were never me, but this peculiar little sister of theirs. From the very beginning, there was only one purpose behind their kindness toward me. This is the wealth of my Luo family. I smiled bitterly. Husband, I want to return to the capital. His Majesty stared at me speechlessly, looking at me as if I were an idiot. You were swindled out of money and virtue, nearly sent to be drowned in a pig cage. Now that you know the truth, you're backing out. What kind of coward are you? I stood by the tavern window, gazing at the frontier town weathered by wind and frost, but to the nation and the people of this border town, they are true heroes. As for me, I'm just a useless woman. Regarding the profit shares, I'll return to Jiangnan and have my uncle remove him from his position as the merchant company's manager. Between the affairs of state and the matters of the heart, which holds greater weight? The emperor stared at me quietly for a moment before letting out a sigh. If all your clansmen had long since perished or been injured in various accidents, what then, my dear? Don't continue to be so naive. Perished, or injured. My voice was as light as a feather falling to the ground, carrying a sense of brokenness that even I found unfamiliar. My lord, you're just speaking hypothetically, right? The emperor shook his head and had the secret guard hand me a stack of letters. Those letters meticulously recorded how my clansmen, young and old, had been schemed against by my seemingly gentle and refined sworn brother, leaving not even their bones behind. No wonder none of my clansmen ever came to the capital to see me in my past life. Not even my closest cousins visited. I thought they resented me for insisting on marrying Lu Xing, which made father sad, and thus chose to distance themselves from me. Clang! Seeing my father's coffin opened by the coroner, only to find his bones pitch black, dead from a potent poison, I accidentally knocked over the coarse clay teacup on the table. The brown tea, mixed with leaves, spilled and meandered down the table's edge, dripping by my feet. It looked just like congealed, filthy blood. I stood frozen, my gaze blankly fixed on the devastation before me. His Majesty sighed softly and gently drew me into his embrace. I didn't want to tell you so soon, fearing you couldn't bear it, but as your husband, I truly couldn't bear to watch you show mercy to your father's killer, because you would surely regret it. He patted my back lightly. his cold eyes staring icily at the borderland scenery beyond the window. Moreover, seeing isn't always believing. Aren't you curious about what they're planning to do with all that silver they took from your father? Yes, I'm extremely curious. Thus, His Majesty became a servant in the general's mansion, and I became a laundry maid in the general's mansion. The winter water is cold, but not as cold as my heart, having never washed clothes before. I specifically followed an old woman to learn for 5 days in order to be recruited into the general's residence. Only when my hands were frozen like radishes and the clothes I washed were clean and soft did I disguise myself and go for an interview at the general's residence. Because I was familiar with various luxurious fabrics, I stood out among a group of frontier town women and became the personal laundress for the general's wife. Her fabrics were all extremely luxurious. Even more so than mine. It was clear how much Luoxi and Luxing adored her. Every time I washed her clothes, I couldn't suppress the overwhelming resentment in my heart. That morning, holding a foul-smelling shoe brocade bellyband, I couldn't contain my surging emotions and ended up tearing it while washing. Helpless, I had to ask the Emperor's secret guards to buy a new one. Fortunately, it wasn't a rare item, yet that all too familiar stench lingered at the tip of my nose, nauseating me so much I couldn't sleep. Lu Xing's habits really haven't changed at all. Because of that bellyband, my mind was flooded with fragments of my past life and memories of Lu Xing. Feeling so disgusted that I couldn't sleep, I quietly slipped out and wandered through the chilly general's residence. As a result, the further I walked, the more remote it became, until I accidentally stumbled upon a bamboo hut outside. Qianxian, Lu Xing's affectionate voice came from inside the room, sending shivers down my spine. The creaking sound of the bamboo bed in the room reminded me of that foul-smelling bellyband. Ugh! I covered my mouth and hid in the shadows, enduring